the excerpt from one of Alexander Nevzorov books.
Sure. I mean, we're live now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you about. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another happiness class. I don't like doing long introductions, but we do have an old friend of mine, but new to live streams and definitely new to my channel. So a bit of an introduction is necessary. So my very quick introduction is I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes for non-Muslims. And I have a lot of friends from different backgrounds. So we've got Marysia, who's a very interesting Christian. I say interesting because he's not your usual Christian. And do you feel like taking your face off camera? You're all right with that? How you are?
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah,
fine.
cool. Because Marysia sometimes keeps her face off camera, which I totally respect. You know, from a Muslim tradition, women do that as well. Muslim women do that as well if they want. But anyway, so Marisha is very interesting because I keep forgetting, but is it that you do the Sabbath on a Saturday? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So like for herself is the main thing I'm trying to say there. But the other, wonderful thing about Marisha is she's very caring and she does a lot of videos about animals. She feeds foxes and she knows a huge amount of detail about, uh, you know, how to treat horses properly. And I've already learned a lot. So, but I want to make this really relevant to people really quickly in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Why is this important? I'm going to stick on my sort of this document that I always put in the descriptions of the YouTube videos and whatever. Why is this important to the average person? So without reading these kind of bullet points, the and when I say important, I always do happiness classes. What do I mean by happiness classes? I mean classes that affect your overall happiness, which is also, I think, a reflection of your spirituality. And so what has being kind to animals got to do with, let's say, everybody? Very quickly, it's known that a good indicator if you're a psychopath as in a killing person, because a psychopath is a trait that is not necessarily bad. It means that you just don't care about people's opinions so much. But also it can be a bad thing if you act on it in a bad way, like you're more capable of killing people. So in short, if you treat animals badly, so there's a statistic, and I've got all the references, I won't read them out. 60% of people 60% of psychopaths who basically kill people have a history of cruelty to animals in childhood. That's just one element of why we're talking about this. Another thing I want to talk about is what's normal. So Marisha is telling me about these different sports that they look really nice, and the animals look nice on the face of it, but they're being treated really badly. And I want everybody to think about it, because not everybody goes horse riding and they don't really understand about horses. It's not part of their lives. So something more normal. What about putting collars on animals? Is that a nice thing to do? Think about it. Would a human being like to have a collar on them or a lead on them? And even more strange to Westerners. And by the way, when I'm saying this, I'm in Jordan. That's hence my background. This is a photo from my background. The reason why you don't see literally the view out my window, because it never shows properly. But anyway, so I'm in Jordan in a village where people don't put collars on animals. They don't keep the animals indoors. The animals are allowed to go and meet their friends outside. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'll come back to that later on. But I want people to think about that. Is that really nice? If a lot of people in England think they're animal lovers, yet they put collars on their animals and things like this. And this is not about being annoyed at people. There are lots of people who do love their animals, but this is something to think about. We'll go into more detail in a bit. And yeah, and generally, this thing about putting collars on animals and keeping them indoors is this our need to control animals and breeding them in a way that's unhealthy for them, so they can fit into our handbags and chihuahuas and all this kind of stuff. And coming to the horses, you know, I was talking to Marysia or messaging Marysia before this, riding horses, and some of them are silly sports. What's it called? Dressage? Is it called when they
Yeah,
have to jump a
that's
certain
yeah,
way?
the
And
word.
Marisha was showing me some horrific pictures about when you look closely at what's happening to the animals, it's not very nice. So,
Okay.
um, but
Yeah.
also the thing I wanted to talk about, sorry I've been talking so much, this is the longest introduction ever. Very briefly, just to finish off, is I want to talk about what rights do we have over animals as religious people? What do our religious teachings say? So that's too much talking already. Marisha, I've introduced you, but I think you've got the right to introduce yourself the way you would like. What would you like to say about yourself in any
Uh,
way? You could talk about the animal side, the Christian side, both sides. Up to you.
yeah, when you're talking about dog collars, they're also not particularly nice to people because soldiers have dog tags, don't they?
Ah.
It just made me think of that for some strange reason.
Hmm.
Uh, like the priests, if they could call it a dog collar, like why is that to protect?
Interesting. Yeah, I never
Yeah,
thought about that. But
yeah,
tell me about
language.
like a quick before we get into that. Tell me something about yourself that you would like to share about yourself in maybe the animal side of like what you care about, why you care about animals. Yeah,
Yeah,
start with that.
yeah, the animal side. I think I've been advocating for horses for so many years. I started on Tumblr initially, and then I had a Facebook page. And you know about my branding. That's my statement for horses. For
Hmm.
nature, it's Nature's Child's number. There's a video of her online. Yeah, and I've had a lot of hassle with equestrians. I've had a death threat
And
anonymously.
for people who don't know, equestrians are people who ride horses. Is that right?
Yeah, equestrians, yeah. But the thing is, I know that I made my video's got a lot of views from a couple of Sundays ago when I filmed the pony, and I know that a lot of people say, well, that's so
What
rude.
happened on the pony? What tell me, people might not know your videos. So, what happened with the pony?
Well, there was a rider in High Park coming along, and I sort of said in a very loud voice, that is horse abuse.
Hmm.
The bit causes neurocranial shock.
Right. Okay,
But
let's
I
go
said,
into that. Yeah.
yes, I said it very loudly. I didn't say it politely or anything. And I mean, because I've dealt with equestrians for so many years, that is the
Hmm.
only way that you can speak to them. If you say something kindly, that they won't even take any notice. And even if you say it rudely, they still won't take any notice anyway. Well, some might, but
Right. So you're
yeah,
saying that the pony was walking on a concrete path and neurocranial, that sounds like basically the crania, whatever, that's in your brain basically. So
yeah,
it's getting shock on its brain by
yeah.
walking on a hard path. Is that the reason? Or is it because it
No,
was carrying a human? Or what's the
no,
reason?
it's the metal in the mouth. The metal in the mouth, it actually causes neurocranial shock.
Oh,
I've written it out here. It's trigeminal and dental pain, painful impact on the minor palatine nerve, the branches of the maxillary nerve, the sublingual and lingual nerves, and the branches of the trigeminous nerve, and the alveolar and infraorbital nerve.
right.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
that is
trying to talk to the average person. So those are very technical medical terms. In a simple way, could you explain? So are you saying, is it the what do they call it? The strap or something? What do they
no
call it? They put it in the mouth. What's it
the
called?
iron. It's the iron in the
Oh,
mouth.
it's called iron. Oh, it says literally there's iron inside the mouth
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
riding. Oh
yeah.
wow. See, so people like me, I mean, I've rid one horse once or twice in my lifetime or something, so we don't know. So literally, when you put the strap or the reins, I think they're called, there's always iron inside the mouth.
Yeah, yes, very.
Wow, that's shocking.
Yeah, it is when you think about it, and it's Oh, what else was I going to say about that? I was going to say something
So how
else.
does it give the cranial whatever? Can you explain in simple terms the medical stuff you just said? Like how does first of all, it is shocking. I mean, imagine me having and a piece of iron in my mouth and people putting it on it. That'd be horrible, right? And we've
Yeah.
got to start thinking of things like that. We have to be more sensitive rather than desensitized to these things. So that's one. But could you explain how that has an effect on the, is it the brain, or how does, can you, in simple terms, because my video
Um,
is for the average person.
I think for the average person, anyone who has experienced neural pain will understand what it's like. I mean, it's just shocking, isn't it? It's very uncomfortable. But it was Alexander Nevzorov who did all the
Okay.
autopsies, and they're real experts in horse anatomy and
Yeah.
physiology. They know everything there is to know. And his wife, she does the thermography, and that also proves the harm of riding. Alexander Nevzorov has performed autopsies on and you can't, a dead horse can't lie, yeah. So
Right. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
cover all these
So,
injuries
yeah.
riding. But the thing is, when I used to say about that on my my horse, they used to say, well, yeah, but they're not peer reviewed. That's the only thing that they could say about me. But the average person, someone like you or anyone else, they'll say, do you know what, that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I mean, the weight of
So
the ride.
something about the metal hitting the teeth, I
Yeah,
imagine, if you keep
yeah,
doing that, you would get a headache, because neuro, whatever you were saying, sounds more like, well, you, in layman's term, is basically a headache, right? You get,
yeah,
or
a
shock
shock.
to the
But
brain, or maybe
yeah,
worse than a headache, like a shock. If you keep bashing metal on somebody's teeth and
mm,
you're not even controlling it, and somebody else is controlling it, like
yeah,
if you've got metal in your mouth, which is not great, but if you're controlling it, you can kind of manage it. But if somebody else is just pulling it every
yeah.
now and then and you don't have any control over it, that's really shocking. Yeah.
And it's
Okay. So
in
go on.
in the horse world itself. You've got these myths about having soft hands, a kind bit. I mean, I've got a video with Pam where I'm at the horses, and she shows like another type of bit, and that one is really severe. It's a dry
Hmm.
bit. Like there's
A
different bits.
bit. What was that word? A bit or a beer?
Bits. Yeah, the
Okay.
line that goes in the mouth is called a bit.
Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah.
As part of a bridle.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and my
And
friend,
so the,
go on,
yeah, go
sorry.
on. No, so what I'm trying, what I mean, I'm going to let you kind of get into the deep stuff about the horses and stuff. But I'm always trying to, in the beginning of the video, trying to make it so the average person can relate to this as well, right? And see, why is it important for them, as the average person, even a non-horse rider,
Yeah,
to care about animals in this way, right? So like I said in the beginning, I try to give like an idea of why it's important for the average person to understand. But I think, like, I'm always trying to make these bullet points really quickly, and I always miss out some crucial things. So one crucial thing I'm trying to get across is our relationship, like the title says, our relationship with nature. And part of that is with animals. And we seem to be so distant from animals and things like that, there's so many things, like, especially city person like me. Before I lived in Jordan before, and then I came back to England. Now I moved back, and but the first time I moved to Jordan, I learned so many things about our relationship to animals. And I just want to share it with you, and you can tell me what you think, just as a sort of introduction of how this really affects um how we affect nature. Okay, I want to give a bit of a picture, a bit of a story, I suppose. um, and it goes something like this. So when I first moved to England, sorry, to Jordan, many years ago, let's say 7 8 years ago, um, I came across so many things. So there's animals walking around. So in England we call them stray animals, but actually the default in the village anyway are stray animals. We don't really have pets as such, right? But loads of people do take care of pets. So we've got a bunch of dogs that I think you've seen some of the
I think,
puppies, you know. But they're outside, and the dogs can do anything they want. And they when I, and I threw I said some things really quickly, but people might not have understood it. Like I said, like they have their friends. Okay, where are their friends? Their friends are from different houses. and they love. You can see how much they enjoy barking at each other and howling and stuff like that. They have a community, okay, just like we have communities and like we like to be social. And so even the other day when I took a pet, as I took a puppy home for a day, I asked the other neighbors, can I take it? It was not happy, and I gave it back even before night was over. I didn't put that in the videos, right? Because I don't record absolutely everything that happens, right? I could see it was complaining, and what was it complaining about? It was complaining that it was away from his brothers and sisters. You see, now think about this. It means that when we take an animal, a dog, sorry, let's say a dog, okay, and we have a pet dog and we keep it locked up in the house, I'm not sure how happy it will be. Do you know what I mean? And when
Mm.
it, and you know, when I've never, I don't know much about dogs other than what I've experienced here, but um, when a pet dog is on its lead and it comes across another dog, it's sniffing at the dog and it wants to make friends and it wants to
Mm.
talk. And it only doesn't have much time because it's dragged away by its owner and say, get back into your house, you know,
Mm.
after you've had a minimum amount of exercise, you know. And dogs used to be wolves and they need to run out, run around. They've got loads of energy. So, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like just that vision. This is not even the beginning. This is only like a touch of the experience I've had. You know what? Yeah, that's only the beginning of the experience I've had in Jordan. And because of that experience, I'm going to round it off a little bit. People in Jordan are very much more connected, not only with animals, but with nature. Like they eat in seasons and stuff like that. And they're
Mm.
much closer to each other as well as human beings. So that's kind of a little touch of my experience of nature and animals in Jordan, which is very different to the so-called animal lovers in England. What do you think about that? Like how Jordanians treat animals?
Well, it's quite interesting because I'm at an age, I mean, I'm in my 60s. So I can remember a
Hmm.
time when I was young where the dogs were let out on streets, you know, it was much more freer. I was going to ask you, though, what's the purpose of your dogs, of your puppies?
Okay, they're not really.
Why do you have them?
So I don't really have them, but some people do have them, and they're guard dogs usually.
Oh, okay.
And the
Yeah.
way they're guard dogs, it's very interesting, is that so we used to have guard dogs in the past when we lived here before, and the way you would get them as a pet is you simply put food in front of your house, then it would eat it. And dogs are really smart. Like I've got a dog. The mum of the dogs that use the puppies that you've seen, she really wants to be our guard dog. Like you can tell she's communicating it, right? I can tell you how she's communicating, but it's very interesting. But you put a bit of food in front of the house, they eat it, and then they understand that. And if you do it in like more than once or twice or something, they understand I'm going to guard your house in return for the food or something. And they love doing it. They really enjoy it. They take pride in being a guard dog. And the way that this mum is communicating it, I might as well quickly explain, is that it will start barking at all the cars that go past to tell me, and is really enthusiastic about it. So, I mean, I don't know if that makes any sense. The dog is trying to communicate with human beings in this way, or but what do you think? Oh, and why did you ask that question? Oh, I don't know if we're frozen a little bit. But Marisha, when you hear me, why did you ask that question about why do I have the dog? Because that sounds like an interesting question. Maybe there's a reason behind it, but maybe your connection's dying or something. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, until your connection comes back, I will. So that was a great question. Like, why, am I bossing the animal? It felt like that could be an idea behind the question. I don't know. But anyway, Marisha, rather than me guess, Marisha will tell me when her connection's back or something. Or maybe it's my connection's not that good. Who knows? Uh, Seems to be all right. I don't know. Anyway, so let me whiz through some of the beautiful teachings of Islam about this, and then why it's important as well. But I think it's nice to start off with some general rules in Islam about how to treat nature. There is none amongst the Muslims who plants a tree or sowed seeds, and then a bird or a person or animal eats from it. It is, but it is regarded by God as a charitable gift. So there's a lot of emphasis about being kind to nature, being part of, respect. And Marisha's back. Great. So, Marisha, why did you ask? It seems like a very interesting question. You asked me. Sorry, I don't know if you know if the connection went, but you asked me just before the connection went. So, why do I have a pet dog? Which I don't really exactly have a pet dog, but it was an interesting question. Why did you ask it? Oh, the sound's not coming now. Oh no. You're not muted or anything. I don't know why I can't hear your sound. Did you plug something in or something? I don't know what happened since before. It's beautiful sound. Uh, oh, yeah, yeah. You muted for a second, then you unmuted. Now you're unmuted. It should be fine. Maybe it's my side. I don't know. Is something wrong on my side? Let me just check. Is YouTube playing or whatever? Just gonna check if but it shouldn't be. Um, just checking if. Oh, definitely my sound's okay. Oh, Marisha, I really want to hear your voice. But you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Just a thumbs up, maybe. Because I can't hear you, so I can't tell if I can't understand if you say yes or no. Oh yes, a thumbs up, so that you can hear me. Oh man, why can't I hear you? Okay, you know what? An easy solution to this is if you leave it and then if you leave and come back in. So you press back or whatever it is and come back in. It usually fixes itself. So just wait. Yeah, cool. So hopefully, um, I don't want her to miss the stuff I wanted to say as well. I was really interested in how. Um, so I want to share some beautiful teachings of Islam related to treating the environment. And it's only a drop in the ocean. There's so many things I could say. The wisdom, but the wisdom, as in how to save the environment in so many different ways, but also. I think it's very important to have these teachings that keep make it makes people realize God wants you to do this, and so you should treat the animals this way and that way, and this is valuable. Some people say, "Oh, religion doesn't need to teach these things; these should come naturally," but they don't. People don't. Give nature its due, treat animals as well as they can, um, and you can see that by the way animals are treated generally. They're treated incredibly inhumanely in farms and so many other scenarios. um, and I want to talk about, some of the things I haven't talked about so far about how animals are treated in Jordan. So let's see if we're lucky, and let's get let's see, do I hear Marisha's voice? Do you want
Yeah,
to test it? Yay, fantastic. Okay,
go back to the email.
no problem. Thank you for trying so hard to get back in. So very quickly, you asked me a question about why do I keep the dogs, and I
Mm,
said I don't really keep the dogs. They're our neighbors, but if we did, we would keep them as guard dogs,
mm.
and they would choose to stay or not. Well, basically. But what was the idea behind your question? Was there any reason?
No, I was just wondering because I knew that they would have a purpose out there. So,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right. So, as Muslims, there's some rules that we have to follow, which are really interesting. Which is about if we keep a dog, specifically for dogs, we have to either keep it as a guard for the land or whatever it is, or as a sheepdog. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we just don't think we're it's our job to control animals, and especially some very intelligent animals like dogs.
Mm.
you know. And there's even a rule against Muslims keeping dogs inside the home. Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think about this? So Muslims are not allowed to keep dogs inside the home. I think it's because, and you can I might as well quickly go to the particular teaching, and it kind of hints at the reason.
Mm.
Let me see if I've got it here. So not this one. Oh, it's probably below or something. Oh, where have I put it? Dogs, kindness to dogs. Oh, maybe. Oh, there it is. It was kind of too hidden. Okay, angels do not enter a house that has either a dog or a picture drawing of people in it. Um, so
And
we're
why black
also not allowed.
dogs?
Sorry?
Why black dogs? Black dogs.
No,
So
no,
some.
no. I didn't say about black dogs, did I?
No, but
No.
I'm asking because I'm aware of that rule that you have in the
Oh no, no.
Quran.
There's nothing about black dogs, as far as I
But
know. I've never heard of that one before.
yeah,
Um,
they don't like black dogs for some strange reason.
No, I don't know. Sometimes you know what I mean by Chinese whispers. Like somebody says something, and then it's kind of not real. So I
Oh,
don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings. You know what I mean? So it's good that you mentioned that, and then I can
mm,
tell you as a Muslim, no other Muslims ever said that. So it's good that you mentioned that.
mm,
So that's not true, but. So I suppose a bit of background is needed to this saying of Prophet Muhammad. So we're generally not allowed. I don't know if you know this, but in Islamic art, we're not allowed to draw pictures of people or ourselves because we get too obsessed with that. People, like if you look at not ancient, but if you go to the National Art Museum or something, I can't remember what they call it, National Portrait Gallery, I think they call it, and you got all these drawings. They start drawing people naked and stuff like that because people get too obsessed with the human form rather than the spirit, you know. And it's a similar reason for the dog. So people who if you understand the special nature of a dog, did you know that just to introduce this a little bit, did you know as far as I know this is accurate, dogs know human emotions and facial expressions better than any other animal? Have you ever heard something like that before?
yeah, I did, not
I mean, we
well.
could double check this, but if they're not the best, they're one of the best. They're
Well,
very good at that.
something
Okay.
something very interesting about dogs
Yes.
is that they know our language more. Like you
Oh.
can put, if you point to something on the floor,
Yeah.
the dog will go to it. And
Yes.
apparently, not even a monkey can do that.
Oh.
They don't understand that, but the dogs are very familiar with our ways, with our language. Yeah,
Very
yes,
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
very interesting.
the animal that can read humans are horses. Yeah,
Oh.
that animal can knows what your next move is going to be. Yeah, and
Oh.
Alexander Nevzorov has a saying: "The horse is always right," and that is correct. You know, can I read that excerpt actually?
Yeah, go on then.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like
okay.
I'd keep doing too much talking. I want to give you a chance, isn't
Uh,
it?
now this is from one of his books.
Oh, can I just finish off my quick point though?
Oh,
Because
go on.
I was in the middle of it, but before. So basically, dogs are very special. They understand humans better, and they're very submissive. They're bred into submission, basically, because they used to be wolves, and they took out all the aggressive elements
Mm,
that are basically, in short, it creates narcissism in human beings when you keep the pet as sort of a prisoner at home, because it's a different relationship, because that different relationship, when the dog doesn't have the freedom, it becomes like a more of an intimate friend. And why is that dangerous for general human relationships? If you have an animal that can understand you so well and does everything you want because it's bred to be submissive, then you becomes a crutch, that's the word, like when you become too dependent on it. And I've heard so many people, we like animals better than humans, Because what happens is, guess what? You have to deal with humans. You have to like humans. And if you have something that's really submissive and almost reads your mind and does everything you want and gives you free love, as it were, I don't know, whatever the word is, probably free love is probably the wrong word. That's a 60s thing. But the point is, you get used to something giving you love so much that when you compare it to humans, you stop liking the human because you don't like it when a human disagrees with you. But it's often very useful for a human to disagree with you if you're doing something wrong and stuff like that. So that's why I'm saying there are we in Islam you should love dogs. You can go to heaven just for giving dog water. There's some sayings I'll go to, but at the same time, the way Westerners think you should love dogs sometimes can be unhealthy and is not loving to dogs, because that's what I'll say about that for now. So go on. What were you going to say about
Well,
the
no, I mean,
horses,
dogs.
or you can say about the dogs as well?
Dogs enjoy our company so much. I mean, and you know the puppy that
Okay.
I've got a Patterdale puppy, and
Okay.
although it loves all the family members, it attaches itself to one person, like strongly
Mm.
attaches itself. And that is Ryan. That's not me. This has now become Ryan's dog. And because the dog won't leave his side, he'll actually be able to take her out for walks with no lead, no nothing. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And that's a very sort of free relationship.
that's good.
Yeah. Very interesting. I didn't know that about the breed. So,
Oh,
but
that's
so
specific to that breed. Okay.
yeah, yeah, a lot of breeds are like that, and some dogs will die if their owners die. They will die
Oh,
as well.
wow.
Yeah, like I think it's Rottweilers. So that's another thing. But dogs genuinely absolutely adore human company. So, but anyway, going back to horses, let me read you this
Sure.
thing out.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'll just turn off the camera for a second.
Sure.
Right, there you go. Right now, Alexander Nevzoro, he writes so well, and he describes everything so perfectly and so clearly, and a lot of his writing absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, one of his books is kind of got a very blasphemous title. It's called The Horse Crucified and Risen. Now I don't know where this is from, but this is just one aspect of horses. Yeah, don't forget you've got rodeo, racing, the circus. You know, but this we're going to look at show jumping,
Hmm.
right? And and I quote: "Consider jumping competitions. Jumping is when people specially tailored red or blue coats and velvet riding hats, looking as if they are occupied with something extremely important, whip their horses already perspiring from pain and terror, to force them to jump across assorted painted poles. It looks very serious and intense. The bell rings. Usually it is a pilfered ship's bell. The judges excitedly sit back on their haunches. The loudspeaker screams. The crowd of spectators roars, and the poles are lifted rather high. And there is the hope that one of the participants will break his neck, or at
Hmm.
least break his back. The men in tight fitting breeches and velvet helmets, just as wide bottom as the ladies in the dressage arena, having driven the horse out of his mind with pain, jumping all the painted poles, force their way towards the television cameras, in whose field of field of view they assume an especially daring air. They willingly give interviews where they are certain to lean on their own certain contact with the horse, and even blab the obligatory something about the horse's love for jumping the
Hmm.
painted poles. And now imagine that by some magic the bridles have been removed from all the horses. That instrument which cruelly controls the horse by great pain in the mouth is no longer functioning. The horses are free. They all scatter instantly, and it becomes clear that there was no real contact at all, and there never was, that the horses were restrained and constrained only by pain. The moronic amusement called equestrian sport ceases to exist as soon as the painful component of control is removed. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I mean, basically, Khalid, you're looking at sadism, aren't you? When if you really want to think
Mm.
about it, whipping horses in public, children carrying riding crops, it's sadism. It
Yeah,
really
and
is.
people don't realize it because the
Yeah,
horses look beautiful because they've been
yeah,
dressed up, don't they?
mm,
But people see that, but they don't really know that they're being tightly controlled and beaten into.
yeah,
And I like the description, like you say in the book, that's really well
mm,
written. I think that they would kind of give the impression or the idea that
absolutely.
these horses, they don't want to be surrounded by screaming
No, they don't.
crowds,
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
just animals, and animals don't like even dogs don't like screaming crowds, you know what I mean? If they had a screaming crowd,
Mm.
they'll run away. Probably the same sort of issue with pedigree. Was it called pedigree, the charm, or the 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 the
Oh, the
dog
dog show.
awards with the dog show? I
No,
don't know what they call that.
soft. No, I think the dogs enjoy that actually. I should
Okay,
imagine.
okay, that's different then.
Yeah,
Maybe they can handle the crowds and all this kind of stuff,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But it is dangerous, and equestrian sports are particularly deadly in horse racing. Is that more dangerous than the show jumping?
Show jump, yeah, not so much. You don't get so many accidents in show jumping, but
Okay,
the speeds for racing are often fatal for horses. They also get pulmonary issues as well. That's
which
another
is
thing that.
heart issues, right? Or is that
Oh, in the
pulmonary?
lungs, in the lungs, pulmonary in the lungs.
Lungs. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay, cardiac is heart, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
lungs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's like that link I showed you about the horses frothing at the mouth. If if
Yeah,
if any animal froths at the mouth, if a human froths at the mouth, that's danger. You call an ambulance,
yeah.
but yet you see horses frothing at the mouth. I mean, it's what? God, it's incredible when
So
you think.
it's quite normal because I don't watch these things. I'm asking you, is it quite normal to see horses frothing at the mouth in show jump? I call it show jumping, but is it called dressage? Is that the same
That's right.
thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And not only that, is at the Olympics you could hear horses choking. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Spectators could hear that.
wow.
That's really
Wow, and we
weird.
don't necessarily recognize people for people who like me who don't know much about horses. Maybe if we saw horses up close and we saw them suffering, we probably recognize suffering. But maybe a lot of people don't. I'm sure they don't recognize that. They just think it's a regular horse noise, but they're actually choking or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Wow. So I suppose that tells us. What does that tell us? So I'm trying to draw lots of lessons. Sometimes. Um,
But
that
people are blind.
we're
They're
I think
brain-
we might have. Go on. What were you going to say?
brainwash. It's brainwashing, Khalid. It really is brainwashing when you really think about it. Because
Hmm.
and you've got all these myths in the horse world. Oh, they love it, and they love show jumping. They love racing. No, they don't. They hate it. It's the cruelest thing imaginable for a horse. So, but a lot of people see it. I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it, Khalid. And
Uh,
just go away and watch some show jumping. You'll see it. You'll see the way the mouth is and the way they pull at the mouth. And terrible.
yeah, you showed me a picture that made me think. Even though, as I say a million times already, that I don't know anything about horses, but you could see the way they're tightly controlled by the reins.
Yeah,
There was a caption on the photo that you sent me. It's like, is this? It's not like they love the animals. It's like they hate the animals. They're controlling them like they hate the animals. And
absolutely.
so I
Yeah.
suppose, like you say, once you see something, you can't unsee it. And I hope that in my videos, I'm not going to change the world and everything, but maybe somebody might learn one tiny thing and they might change the way they treat
Mm,
animals. That's one.
absolutely.
If we can achieve that, if we can save the pain of one animal, one horse,
Yeah.
that's an hour worth. This live stream has been worth it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, so another thing I want to, because although you're the expert on horses, I don't want to just talk about horses because a lot of people might not know, but we might come back to horses in a bit.
Okay.
Um, I'll try to keep it in some sort of order, but there was something I started saying and I didn't really 100% finish, or maybe I did. I don't know about the way animals are treated in Jordan, and I'm always learning about this, right? So I'll give you okay. So I think Okay, I'll say a few things. I'll get worried that I talk too much, but when the way animals are treated over here, I'll give you one example, and then I tell you how it translates into how human people treat each other. So I've seen, for example, like in a shop doorway, a cat is sitting in front on the in the literally the doorway of a shop, and people are walking over without disturbing it. Right? That's how important cats, or how well cats are treated. Um, you can go all sorts of places, like people will just go and feed cats outside shops even if it's not their cat. We've got loads of cats ourselves.
Oh,
um,
oh yeah.
and they're always and I'll tell you the example. I don't want to tell people like this is how you should behave and I'm wonderful. I like to prefer to tell people how I'm learning from the people here. So this is one way I'm learning. So the cats are always camping outside our door, and not always. My wife said, "Oh, you probably haven't fed them enough or something." So that's another thing I need to develop as well, right? Um, so let's say they're camping outside the door, and the urge is to push them away. But now but then I get told, "Oh, come on, be nice." But I don't like, you know, I, let's say I don't. I have been a little bit bad in the past, right? Like when they get too annoying, I'm not too pleased about it. But what I'm saying is I'm learning, and I've learned to be more patient. They're kind like, I don't know if you know, I don't know if this Jordanian cats or whatever, but over here the cats literally just stay right in your way until you literally you can't go. It's like they're not scared of anything. Like they're like, I'm walking and I'm getting closer and closer to the cat, and the cat's not moving, and
Yeah,
I
I
have
know.
to gently push it. Or so is that British cats as well? I don't read, because over here we've got so much more space that we can have more animals, but in
Yeah,
London there's no space, and you can't have. I don't really want the cats inside because their fur will come off. So
yeah,
I've really got my experience in Jordan. So is
yeah.
that
But
in
Khalid
England as
didn't
well?
Didn't Muhammad have a cat? That which is why Muslim like cats.
Oh yes, so yes, Prophet Muhammad did have. I don't know all the stories, but one of his most famous followers was
Yeah.
called Abu Huraira, which means father of the cats, because he had so
Uh,
many cats, and he was
okay.
one of the most famous followers because a large, massive percentage of the sayings of Prophet Muhammad were remembered by this person called, his nickname was Abu Huraira. Abu means father, Huraira means cat.
Yeah.
So that wasn't his real name, but that was what he's famous for. But one of the, just to give you an example of the Prophet Muhammad himself, peace be
Yeah.
upon him, if a cat was sleeping on his lap, he wouldn't
Yeah.
get up. He didn't want to disturb the cat.
Yeah.
Imagine, this is the most one, probably he's recorded as the most successful person in history, and he's taken care of governments and huge number of problems, being persecuted, but
Mm.
he wouldn't disturb the cat from getting up if it was sleeping. I would definitely disturb the cat. I'm just telling you, I'm not that good. I'm just saying, but at least we know that's the standard that we were given, so, and that is, and the fact that you pointed out is, that is probably why in Arab countries cats are loved so much,
Yeah,
because of that.
I know what the problem is with the cats over there. And they're spoilt brats. Cats are so,
They
cats are so cats are so clever, right?
right.
They I love cats because they're so independent and they're so and they will just love that being spoiled out there, and they're going to play people up, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I
I find
suppose, I
that so
mean,
amusing. That's so typically cat to do that. Let's
is it?
get in the way of these humans that love us so much. I think that's absolutely hilarious.
That's
But
good. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've even gone, like, I was recording some street, and people put like little pots out for the cats to have water and stuff like. In fact,
mm,
it's not just cats. Just to make it clear, our neighbors put um bottles of, like containers of water. We put
mm,
containers of water for the birds, like normal birds, not even our chicken, but the normal birds,
mm,
right? So you can see that one, and this is part of one of the many teachings I haven't even listed here of how to treat normal birds. Like even there was a time when there was some hungry friends of Prophet Muhammad, and
Mm.
those people, because they're hungry, they took some eggs from a nest, and
Yeah.
the Prophet Muhammad came back from somewhere, and he noticed a bird circling above them and making noise, and he said, "Oh, have you stolen the eggs? Put it back, even if you're hungry." Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like that kind of treatment, people say you don't need religion because you can guess how to behave by yourself. But actually, I would say it's because of that standard set in religion, in Islam, and maybe you can tell me about Christianity, that Muslims over here treat animals so well. I would say there are some people who treat animals really
Yeah.
badly. They're kind of like they're very savage. There are some crazy people as well. Not everybody's like that. I'm just saying it's noticeable how soft people are. And I was going to bring it back to human beings before I stop talking because I keep start talking too much, right? But the way people treat each other is so gentle and thoughtful. And I'll give you an example. It's like if I'm invited somewhere, um, I could give a very long list, but they would be kind of like they'll be watching every tiny thing I do. And like
Mm.
if I'm looking around for a second for a tissue, they'll be going, "Oh, let me get a tissue." I won't even have to say anything. And if I'm almost finished my plate, they're a bit over the top, right? But they would put food in my plate before and they'll be forcing food on. So I think that the way people treat each other, and they'll say welcome to my house even if they're strangers. I've done a video where I was walking around and somebody said come to our house, and I carried on recording so people could see how it's done, and I'm sitting down, I'm still recording, and they're giving me coffee, then tea, then camel's milk. Do you know what I mean? And they pretend they've got nothing else to do. So I think it does translate when you treat animals well, that you treat human beings well. And it's proved, like I mentioned in the early, there's a lot of psychological studies that do relate treating animals well and humans well. I don't think it's always the same. Sometimes you can be a bit crazy because you don't have any friends and you treat animals well, but generally it's true. I suppose I should ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
um the first question that comes to my mind is there anything in Christianity, since you're such a strong Christian, that teaches something about how you should treat animals that
No,
come to mind?
no, it just says that we have dominion over them, doesn't it, in the Bible at the beginning of the
Sure.
creation, which is the same for you guys as well. So
That's
that's
right. That's right.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Marisha knows a lot about Islam because you're often your best friends are Muslim, and just so people don't know, if they don't know, we're friends from somewhere called Speaker's Corner,
Mm.
um, where there are a lot of Muslims there, and Christians, but a lot of Muslims, I'd say. Is that still right? Mostly Muslims there, would you say?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay, let me just read something and tell me what you think about it, I suppose. Um, yeah, there is. This is just a random quote. I think I'm going to start with general things and then say something about animals. So, there is none amongst the Muslims who plants a tree or sows seeds and then a bird or a person or an animal eats from it, but it is regarded by God as a charitable gift from Him. So, if you plant a tree and uh, any animal or any human eats from it, God will consider that as a charity and reward you for it. What do you think about that?
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I think people might plant a tree for themselves, but if
Mm.
they, yeah, it's beautiful because it reminds you to think about nature, to think about the animal, just like we do in our garden. We have loads of birds in our windowsills and stuff like that, right? Um, and we see them fly down to the buckets we keep for all the animals, and we watch the animals drink from it, and so you feel so much more connected with nature. And I
Mm.
suppose there's one of the really important things we're really struggling with at the moment as a human species is that we're abusing nature so badly.
Very much.
You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
isn't one third of the antibiotics given to anything are given to
Mm.
cows because we treat them so badly because they're not allowed to move, they eat crap. Do you know what I mean? And
They
so we
turn
have
them
to give
into
them antibiotics to say again.
turn them into barcodes by factory farming
Yeah,
them.
that's
Yeah,
right, exactly.
terrible.
So yeah, so to redress this, so in my happiness course I do lots of things, and today's one is about the environment. Normally I talk about bigger topics, but I'm trying to focus on the details of how we treat animals, because if we treat animals well, then we would treat nature well
Mm.
and things like that, and then we treat each other well, and then we won't be damaging the world, and we won't be savaging the nature so badly. um Yeah, and since you mentioned a thing about in the Bible we have dominion, okay, the word in the Quran is Khalifa, which has different meanings, right?
What meaning?
Khalifa means somebody who's given responsibility, a bit like a shepherd, I suppose. So,
Yeah,
so,
doesn't
so
dominion
you
mean
have a
responsibility?
so
That,
so
that
say again.
dominion is responsibility. It's not. I don't think it's a ruling over.
Ah,
It sounds
brilliant.
like dominion, but it's actually what you're saying, responsibility.
Beautiful. And I think
Because
it's
that
good that
you can translate that differently. The what
yes.
dominion actually means, which is quite
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think what's interesting, especially there, I mean, the good thing is that I'm glad, like, if there's a Christian listening and they didn't really think about what dominion means, and
Mhm.
in this case, and then they're hearing our discussion, maybe they'll go, you know what? Yes, I have dominion. We rule over it, but we've got a responsibility as well to take care of it, and God is watching us how we treat these animals. Um,
Yeah, but
and
it's everything
us-
else. The trees, the fruits, the things to grow. That it's all nature. It's a gift, isn't it? When you
yeah,
really think about it.
yeah. Um, Yeah, I suppose the difference is in the Arabic, because we've got the original words. Because I think the original words in of the Bible would have been Hebrew when they were revealed, isn't it? Is that right?
I'm not sure actually.
Like, okay, so Moses's teachings would have been Hebrew, I guess,
Mm.
and
Oh yeah,
David and all
yeah,
those Jewish prophets,
yeah. But
and then
the first five books weren't even written down. They were actually from God. The
orally,
Torah. It's the it's a Pentateuch, the whole of the Old Testament. But the first
yeah.
five books weren't actually written down. They were given by God, weren't they?
Sure, and they were when you say not written down, maybe not written down for millennia, but just verbally
Yeah,
passed
yeah,
on or something
that's
orally. Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't
okay,
know.
yeah, because yeah, a lot of people don't know because people forget that books are relatively, and paper is a relatively new invention.
Mm,
Um, yeah, which has brought, like, it was a Chinese secret for centuries, and then
mm,
it's a funny story. The Muslims went to China, and I'm not sure if it's a good story, but they forced some Chinese people to give away the secret of making paper, and then once that was done, books became more
mm,
common because it's very hard to make books out of physical tablets. We have a modern tablet, but people forget the original tablets were stones. You can't really
mm,
make books out of that. So
yeah,
yeah, so that's probably why it wasn't written down. The Bible wasn't written down in form,
mm,
whatever. Even anyway, so we've only got 3 minutes left, and then straight after this I have to teach an online lesson. So
okay.
I'm just thinking, what next thing? Okay, so about what is our right towards other animals? So the Quran says, um, where have I got here? Oh, it's on a different
Oh,
page. That's why. So he has created that. So God has created horses and mules and asses. So he's created, talking about different kind of riding animals, that you may ride them, and as a source of beauty. Now, this is always the great thing about having Arabic is because when you ever translate in English, it's never as expressive as the Arabic. But what it means to say is that its beauty comes from its source of helpfulness, right? So,
mm,
First of all, the Quran is saying we do have the right to ride the animals, but maybe we have to be careful about how we ride them. I'm not sure. You could tell me, since we're running out of time, maybe this could be very useful for the rest of us. And there's a very interesting bit. It says, and God will create even more forms of transport, but that's another thing like cars. But it didn't say cars. It said,
That,
and we will create for me. You don't
Khalid,
know. But my question, go on.
is that the Quran, or is that a hadith?
That's the Quran.
The Quran itself.
Yes, that's the Quran
Oh,
itself.
that's interesting.
Yeah. So it talks about the fact that these things are for us to ride, but also talks about future modes of transport. But my question to you, since we're running out of time, just one, if you can give me a short answer, is there a way of riding horses that is not harmful to animals, the horses?
Well, they say that. Well, obviously, take away all the bits and the instruments of
The
torture,
reins.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But just to ride for 15 minutes. After after
Okay.
after 15 minutes, that's when the horse starts to experience pain and numbness. If you re-
Right.
if you really want to do it, I mean, I didn't. I stopped it, and I knew that I would never ride again once I saw a particular documentary. So,
Very
but if you want
interesting.
to, if you want to insist on, and riding is pleasure, yeah. I know because I used to ride. It releases endorphins. They're only
Ah.
doing it for their own pleasure, Carly. There's nothing, no other
Mm.
reason for it. So it's selfish, really.
Okay. I'm really sorry to have to cut you off now,
No,
but
no,
that
no,
means we
no.
just enjoyed ourselves so much
Yeah,
that time flew by. And thank you, Uncle Ulrich, on the side. Sorry I didn't notice that because we were such a rush going through the content. But I'm going to rush now to my next thing. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you, Marisha. Maybe we'll do more in the future. Bye.
yeah. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.